Okay, Teacher's Voice. Tell us your name and why are you out here today?
My name is Barbara Madeloni. I'm from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where I'm a teacher educator. I'm out here today to defend public education and the public good from increasing corporatization of not only the American Educational Research Institute, but of our public schools and of our public commons. So as a teacher educator, I've been subject to the imposition of the Pearson Stanford edTPA, which is a standardized assessment of teacher education. It's a high-stakes assessment that will be used to determine whether or not somebody is credentialed. It's now operative in at least 20 states at various levels. My students and I, last spring, when we heard that this was coming, and we heard that the students' work was going to be sent to Pearson in order to be scored by a person who had been calibrated and determined their credentialing, the students refused to participate in a field test of that assessment. We worked really hard to even get permission to refuse. When we finally did refuse, we got an article in the New York Times about it. 67 of 68 students opted out, and 17 days after the publication of the article, I received a letter of non-renewal, lost my job.
Tell me about the complicity that you see of the research organizations in seeding evaluation to this as such.
The complicity is there at a variety of levels. I would say that the first place it is that they accept the language and terms of the corporate so-called reformers. I call them corporate deformers, and the venture philanthropists who are involved in this. And that is, they accept the language of the market, they accept the language of accountability and standardization and quantification that really is contrary completely to the deeply human experience that is what happens in classrooms across the country every day. So that the human element of education is a human activity, it's a social activity, and that is now being reduced to these very narrow ideas of what's possible in education, and it's being reduced to a number.
Students are more than test scores. Students are more than test scores. Students are more than test scores.
For those of you who are going inside, we have these handy signs.
We have these handy signs.
And the ones you made that are beautiful.
And the ones you made that are beautiful.
When Arne is saying something that you disagree with.
When Arne is saying that we disagree with.
Which will be most of the time if he's not lying.
Which will be most of the time if not.
Hold these up.
Hold these up.
Let everybody know how we feel.
Let everybody know how we feel.
When somebody says something we agree with.
When somebody says something we agree with.
And we do have people who will be asking questions.
And we do have people who will be asking questions.
Give them a really good cheer.
Give them a really good cheer.
Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Can you tell us what this is, sir?
What?
Tell us what it is.
What it is a roadmap of power, how Race to the Top got there through a group of investment bankers. And on the back is all the money that they're making out of Race to the Top, selling services.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I want us to get moving. Let me tell you how this is going to work, I hope. Secretary Duncan will offer an overview for about 20 minutes on student assessment. I have then asked Pedro Noguera of New York University, Eva Baker of UCLA, and then my newfound friend from last night at the end of my talk, Arne Dodge from LIU Post, to offer the first 3 questions. After that, we'll open it up to the rest of us, but we got to end in an hour. So and please do try to keep these aisles open, and I'm not saying it for any other reason other than that we're in San Francisco and we could have a fire or earthquake. So without further ado, Secretary Duncan.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak before this group. I look forward to having a great conversation when I'm done. I'm going to talk to some length today about some of the current controversies around standardized testing and the purposes of assessment. But I want to preface those remarks by saying how much I value compelling educational research. The truth is that educators and policymakers today still have a large unmet need for relevant research. Education researchers can and do play an absolutely invaluable role in formulating policy from preschool all the way through grad school. You are the experts. You are the independent truth tellers. Yet the role of the independent expert is not at odds with asking hard questions about the practical implications of your work and assisting practitioners to improve educational outcomes. Rigor is necessary, but not sufficient. Relevance matters as well. In my 7+ years as CEO of the Chicago Public Schools, and in my 4 years in this job, I've often had the occasion to ask basic questions about program effectiveness, to which unfortunately there are few compelling answers. Today, for example, federal, state, and local governments spend several billions of dollars each year on professional development for teachers. Yet we know surprisingly little about the effectiveness or the return on investment.
The thing where I really got the truth was when I went beyond the principal, went into the teacher's room, asked the families and said, what's going on here? Because the people I speak to tell me that this is a high-stakes testing regime that is suffocating them. It is marginalizing everything. And despite the rhetoric that comes from your office, if you look downstream where it's truly happening, it is destroying the joy, the spontaneity, and the innovation that we prized for all the years that we did good things with kids. And until you recognize that, so my question is actually a follow-up to Eva Baker's question, and my question is simply, until we get it right, you yourself decried high-stakes testing, you cited Campbell, all of the pressures. Until we get it right, let's declare a moratorium and not have this kind of happening. And if you do that, and if you won't recommend